And you actually had an encounter, though, that took you into this. You were in Hawaii, right, at the time? Tell everybody what happened.
Well, I had a lot going on. I was about to get a divorce.
Right.
I was in a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, and just a lot of confusion about what am I going to do. And so I go to this conference, and I was in Hawaii. So you can imagine it's Art and Kuna Sepulveda, the great pastors in Word of Life Church in Honolulu. Shout out. They have the most amazing women's conference there. Great church. So I walk in the first service, and also one of the speakers was Sam Evans Russell Evans' wife from Planet Shakers.
Okay.
So they have amazing worship there.
A lot of worship DNA going on.
Yeah.
Right.
So she's there singing, and one of their songs was I Was Made to Worship. You know that Planet Shaker song?
Yeah.
I was made to worship. I was made to bless your name. I'm just feel the presence of the Lord just saying the words. Come on. And so I heard it. It's like the Lord sovereignly, because I didn't know I wasn't a worshiper, okay? If you focus over here, you're going to see that. If you focus over here, you're going to see that. And if you focus on both, you could change the world.
Wow. Come on.
I know.
Come on.
So I walk in, and you have to picture it. They have a big screen behind with the most beautiful Hawaiian stuff going on the screen.
Right.
And the most beautiful Hawaiian women, all ages, just beautiful hula dancers.
Dancing hula to the worship.
Yes.
That's their expression.
Yes.
In that culture.
Yes. And it just, God will produce these moments for you. He's used worship so many times to produce a moment for me.
Yeah, come on.
Not long after that. And still dealing with divorce and all that and aftermath. I'm in a conference, at a Gateway conference in downtown Fort Worth. And
well, wait a minute. Back up now.
I know, but this one, he will produce these moments. He's producing a moment for you right now. Just lay down to it.
Right.
This moment, I open a prayer card that's randomly handed out.
Yeah.
While the words to No Longer Slave was part of the prayer card.
Okay.
Which the Lord had spoke to me on the drive over. And on the break, they're playing a video with that song in the background. So I literally, this is not a joke. And I even looked at my friend, and they opened theirs first. I almost opened mine. I didn't. I looked at her. She opened hers. I picked my card up, and I'm reading it while it's coming from the stage.
Hey!
He produced like a, wow. He produced that.
He is able to coordinate the timing of things so perfectively. It's just like, it's freaky.
It's freaky.
It's awesome.
So here I am, and he just produced that moment for me.
Yeah.
In Hawaii.
Yeah.
Not very many people at least knew I was getting a divorce. I'm going through the shame of it.
Yeah.
Kelly's getting a divorce again. I'll just tell you, I'm not ashamed, but I was. And the Lord delivered me from that. But I don't even know how to tell you what he did, other than I couldn't stay away. I couldn't stay in the back. I got ready early. There was some delay in who was riding with me and them going, so I just got my own ride.
Yeah,
so I could be there.
Hungry.
But I wasn't doing it even on purpose. I think you can ask the Lord for this. I think you can just start worshiping with him in your mind and your heart, and you'll get to this place. You can walk this door. It's your choice to worship.
Right.
I began to learn about it, but all week I was just couldn't help it. I was made to worship. And that was the song that was sung every night. Every service, they sang that one song for me.
Yeah, you said that, at that point, you would instead of showing up last when the worship was ending, you would be there 20 minutes early.
Yeah, I was right there in my seat, ready and from that moment, I began to okay, I'm downloading Hillsong, I'm downloading Bethel songs, I'm downloading Planet Shakers, and I'm just singing.
Come on.
And I had been singing my whole life. So I thought I was worshiping, and I was to a degree. But the Lord, when I got home after a few weeks later, he started talking to me about what had happened, because I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm just suddenly love to worship.
You're right. So, okay, so I don't want you to lose your train, but you said something right now. You just said, I had been singing my whole life. But what was the difference? Can you diagnose the difference between how you were always singing, but then what happened, the difference now of you're now worshiping singing?
I think what he began to show me was the key to why it was different.
Yeah.
But I was engaged. The bottom line of it was I was engaged with the Lord at a deeper level. I'm not just singing. I would sing to him. I would mostly, a lot of the times when I would sing as a minister, I would be singing to you.
Okay.
Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that.
Because you've been on the worship team itself.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't on the worship team. I was just would do specials and stuff.
Okay.
And I sang with my daughters. We were a bluegrass group for a while.
Okay.
And then finally they were like, we don't like bluegrass. I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're done. But we enjoyed ministering to each other. But I was really foolish about some things, or the aspect of worship was I just didn't know it. And so I think this will help explain it. So one day I'm driving home. Now, also what happened was when I began worshiping him, he began showing me things I needed to change. I wasn't connecting the dots at the time.
So you weren't even asking. But in that process of you just opening up your heart to really engage with him,
to worship him,
you saw stuff. He showed you junk.
He did. And here I am in a divorce. It's not usual that in a divorce you look at yourself.
Yeah, you're definitely.
And I had been through one before, and I didn't look much too hard at myself.
Oh,
I looked at what somebody did to me.
Wow.
And forgave. I could do that. And I could do that not only by faith, it was in my heart to do it, which is great. And that's what this says.
Wow.
That's a powerful thing. That it says that, so I don't care how I feel about it. I'm forgiving. I forgive, and I did.
I think that's crucial, guys. Like, I just want to camp on that for 1 minute. It's crucial that's the first thing that we do is we have to forgive. And if you haven't forgiven somebody, if you've been through a divorce or something, a breakup of a relationship, a friendship, whatever, or any type of debacle or strife between you and a person, the first and foremost thing we do is have to forgive. But, and I hope you have, if you haven't, you need to, we also need to start looking at ourselves, because you always hear people say, well, they did this and they did that and they had this problem and this attitude. But you rarely hear people say, but I also... and we don't do that. And I think we have to. So God started showing you that. You hadn't done that before. And you did it.
And I feel like the Lord just gave me a prophetic picture about blame and shame. It's like, I've never thought about this before, but blame, it's like handcuffs.
Yeah.
Because you won't do anything as long as your soul wants to blame everybody else for why your life is how it is.
And so you're not going to move forward? You're not going to be free?
But shame is like cuffing your feet, because you won't move forward in shame.
So
blame
you're
and
shame.
Back here, blame and shame. You are not moving forward.
Wow.
And so, but he was releasing things in me that was going to take that out of my life.
Wow.
But
it came
started
through
with
the worship.
Because the bottom line was this: when you're worshiping, well, let me go back to what he said to me on my drive. He's just talking to me more now.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm hearing just drive, and I would before, but not like that. It was just so intimate, and so clear, and I could understand. It's like his presence became always with me.
Yeah.
I became more aware of his presence when I started worshiping. Makes sense later, but I didn't get it then. So what he did was he said, you disdained worship. I wanted to go,
whoa.
Do you know who you're talking to, Lord? I love you. I mean, I don't think I responded like that, but it shocked me.
Yeah.
Because I've spent literally my whole life. I love him.
Yep.
And I don't mean like, but I've given my life to you. Not like that, but just anything I knew to give him, I gave him.
Right.
My money, my time, I mean, whatever I knew how to give him, I'd believe his word because he said it. I would do what he said in here. I would do what I knew to do because I loved him. Obedience is very powerful. And I know that it's easy as a worshiper to feel like, well, it's not about my works. But you can't, he'll love you and you can have peace in the middle of a storm, but you'll find yourself in more storms, I think, if you're not obedient and you're not following his word. So I was doing what I knew, and I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just trying to say he didn't deal in shame with me. I knew what I knew, but I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so he starts telling me, and when he tells you something, it's just so easy to hear it. Much easier than from a husband, a sister, a brother, or a parent. Or
That's
a child.
for sure.
How many of you love having your millennial tell you what's wrong with you? It's a lot easier to hear from him.
It is. That's the thing, guys. And it's a lot easier to hear from him when we worship. And look, I want to say something very simple but powerful to you guys. Many of you right now are crying out to God, why is this happening? Why is that happening? You know, why am I not hearing your voice? I need the answer to this thing, to this problem, and I'm not hearing it. And honestly, if you just would, instead of asking all those questions and fretting inside your soul, if you would just stop and say, hey, maybe I should just get into worship right now. You're going to get a breakthrough if you do that. So that's the thing. We get stuck.
Yeah.
We get stuck in that thing with, oh, why, this, that, oh. And if we would just stop and say, I'm going to just let go of all the swirl of confusion and condemnation and anger and bitterness, and I'm just going to start worshiping, and then I'll hear my answer.
And I'm always that person that wants to understand why things happen.
Yeah.
And you're not going to always understand why God's things
Yeah,
work the way
his
they
thoughts
do.
are higher.
But you can, when you receive his thoughts, you can begin to understand. He wants us to have his thoughts and his ways.
Yes.
But we have to put our own aside. So when he put that worship on me and I'm driving, he said, you disdain worship. And I'm like, no, what? No. And he said, and he quickly followed that up with, the meaning of disdain, it's not, and I looked it up later, it's not to hate. It's to think little of.
To think little of.
I went.
Wow, it's a big deal.
With somebody to an audiologist appointment, and their hearing was checked.
Yeah.
And you know, when they checked your hearing, they check all the different frequencies. So you might hear at this level and this frequency and down and this frequency and up and down, and you might hear at different levels on different frequencies. Yeah. And I think that the things of God can be very much that way. It's like we all kind of have the same elements: worship, prayer, the word, whatever all those things are.
Right.
But we may have in our camp, I don't like that word, but in our tribe or group, however you want to say it, sheepfold, we had emphasized word, which is awesome.
Yep.
And we had not emphasized worship.
Okay.
Because this is what we're called to bring or teach or whatever.
Word, yeah.
And you could take that and do that to it in some groups, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so it's okay. It's where we've been.
Yep.
But it wasn't okay for me to continue on like that because he started working on me, and he's the best worker. So what I hope you take away from this, that the work is not on you, just the open heart part.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Though sometimes, guys, and you and I talked about this earlier too, you have to start the breakthrough by just choosing to worship whether or not you feel like it at all. Yeah. You probably don't even feel like it. You know, we get to the point where we haven't worshiped for so long that we are oppressed, depressed, we're under demonic assault and oppression. I mean, it's just crazy. And sometimes you're like, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? It's like, just go worship. And you actually have to make yourself physically go, I do not feel like worshiping, but I'm going to turn on the YouTube. I'm going to play the song. Yeah. I'm going to stand here and open my mouth and sing with all my might. And then after, 10, 20, 30 minutes of hardness, you don't feel any movement. You're just making yourself do it. Suddenly it hits. The Holy Spirit hits. Your soul cracks open. You start weeping. You have an encounter.